All right, so good evening. So good Friday evening, and welcome back to JPC Watchdog News. So this evening, we're going to talk about power and conflict and the strategies that are going along with this. I'm going to continue in my RAND report research into current events. So welcome back. I'm Jared Wesley Campbell. Whether you're joining us for the first time or returning for the latest updates, we are your trusted source for comprehensive, objective analysis for today's critical globe and domestic events. This edition dwells into Venezuela, Russia, and Israel, examining how military industrial strategies and economic pressures drive global conflict and geopolitical maneuvering. So, on the global developments front, we're going to talk about Venezuela, right? So, Venezuela's economic warfare and strategic destabilization. So the U.S. has escalated its campaign against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, raising his bounty to $25 million, while imposing sanctions on key officials and state-owned entities. It's coming out today, right? The Treasury accused Maduro's government of repression and subversion of democracy following the contested 2024 elections. So, what are some of the details? So sanctions target Interior Minister Desado Cabala, Defense Minister Vladimir Parino Lopez, and others citing human rights abuses. U.S. diplomacy demands Maduro to step aside in favor of the opposition leader Armando Gonzalez, intensifying regional tensions. So, what are the connections to my RAND report research? Well, the connections to the RAND report and research, from the RAND reports I've been reading, we'll look at those in a second, right? So the RAND report studies on counterinsurgency and regime destabilization highlight how sanctions and bounties fit into broader economic warfare strategies. These measures align with historical tactics designed to undermine regimes seen as problems to U.S. interests while avoiding direct military intervention. What's the link to the military-industrial complex? These strategies reflect the military-industrial complex reliance on sustained economic and political pressures as a precursor to potential military engagement. By isolating Venezuela economically, the groundwork is laid for more direct forms of intervention if the regime resists perpetrating in a cycle conflict. Next on the list, Russia, right? Targeting energy and economic pillars, right? Listen attentively. In coordination with allies, the Biden administration has announced sweeping sanctions against Russia, targeting its oil and gas sectors. These measures aim to weaken Moscow's economy and diminish its capacity to fund military operations in Ukraine. Sanctions focus on Gazprom neft and other, right? And over 180 vessels transporting Russian oil. This builds on previous measures targeting Russia since its annexation of Crimea and subsequent military actions in Ukraine. Connections to the RAND report research. And the RAND reports, cost imposing options report outlines how targeting energy exports and financial systems can destabilize powers like Russia, right? The emphasis on restricting Russian revenues align with the RAND's report recommendation to exploit vulnerabilities and resource-dependent economies. What's the link to the military-industrial complex? These sanctions are part of a broader geopolitical strategy that intertwines economic constraints with defense policies. The military-industrial complex benefits from increased defense spending in response to perceived threats, sustaining demand for advanced weapons and military infrastructure. Next on the list, Israel-Hamas conflict, the cost of endless wars. It is a cost of endless wars, always a cost to endless wars. In Gaza, the humanitarian crisis continues to escalate. Over 46,000 casualties have been reported. Some say it could be higher. With Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirming Israel's commitment to achieving total victory for Hamas. Netanyahu and U.S. relations. Netanyahu's relationship with U.S. President-elect Donald Trump remains complicated. Recent tensions, including Trump sharing a video critical of Netanyahu's role in the U.S. Middle East policies. We'll watch that at the end. Underscore the fragility of the alliance. What's the connections to the RAND reports? In the RAND report, labeled Counterinsurgency Studies, warn of long-term destabilizing effects of military campaigns, lacking post-conflict reconstruction. Gaza represents a case study of how prolonged conflict without stabilization exacerbates regional instability. The military-industrial complex link. The military-industrial complex thrives in environments of prolonged conflict. Listen attentively. The military-industrial complex thrives in environments of prolonged conflicts. The continuous demand for advanced and weapon systems, defense contracts, and foreign aid ensures a cycle of dependency that benefits defense industries and the cost of long-term peace efforts. Implications for global stability and possible World War III. From Venezuela to Ukraine, the RAND report's findings illustrate how the U.S. leverages economic and military strategies to unbalance the people they don't like Russia, right? However, these strategies often escalate to proxy wars, pulling global powers into broader conflicts. What's the link to the military-industrial complex? Proxy wars fuel the demand for arms and military infrastructure. As the RAND reports notes, this cycle risks overextending problems like Russia and heightening the risk of direct confrontation. Risk of escalation in the Middle East. The Israel-Hamas conflict, compounded by Iran's involvement, represents a potential flashpoint for regional war. The insights in the RAND report on insurgencies stress the dangers of neglecting political solutions, which could transform localized conflicts into global ones. The link to the military-industrial complex. Persistent instability in the Middle East sustains the rationale for military interventions and defense investments, reinforcing the complex dominance over policymaking. Economic warfare and long-term risks. Sanctions against Russia and Venezuela highlight using economic tools to achieve military objectives. However, RAND cautions that such strategies may provoke adversaries into forming stronger alliances, increasing the likelihood of global conflict. Linked to the military-industrial complex. Economic sanctions often pave the way for heightened military tensions, justifying increased defense spending and deeper enrichment in conflict zones. Some of my final thoughts, right? I'm going to close out with those in a second. Let's look at some things. I'm going to share the screen over real quick. Thank you all again for following. So I'm going to go first here before we get to the video we're going to watch. Here are some of the RAND reports that I've been reading. So overextending and unbalancing Russia, that was published in 2019. Okay. The most recent one, counterinsurgency, stability operations, support to foreign internal defense, nation building, and special operations. Covers from 1962 to 2019. I'm still reading this. It's very long, right? So I'm going to be covering a lot of this stuff, right? So I'm doing what some aren't doing, okay? All right, so here's a video to watch, right? So we talked about Donald Trump, right, releasing a video about them saying something negative about Bibi. So let's watch this video. It's not only for a few minutes.
Why did the U.S. invade Iraq in 2003? Well, first of all, it was completely phony pretenses. It wasn't, oh, we were so wrong, they didn't have weapons of mass destruction. They actually did focus groups in the fall of 2002 to find out what would sell that war to the American people. Abe Schultzke, if you want to know the name of the PR genius. They did focus groups on the war. They wanted the war all the time. They had to figure out how to sell the war to the American people, how to scare the shit out of the American people. It was a phony war. Where did that war come from? You know what? It's quite surprising. That war came from Netanyahu, actually. You know that? It's weird. And the way it is is that Netanyahu had from 1995 onward the theory that the only way we're going to get rid of Hamas and Hezbollah is by toppling the governments that support them. That's Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And the guy's nothing if not obsessive. And he's still trying to get us to fight Iran this day, this week. He's a deep, dark son of a bitch, sorry to tell you, because he's got...
All right. So that was... So Trump posted that video of a Jeffrey Sachs. That's who said it. So it was Jeffrey Sachs. So as we get ready to close out, right? So here are some of my final thoughts before I close out. So my final thoughts. The RAND report provides a blueprint. So all those RAND reports providing a blueprint for understanding the strategic calculus behind modern conflicts. They reveal how the military-industrial complex leverages economic, political, and military tools to perpetuate a cycle of conflict that benefits defense industries at the expense of global stability. At JPC Watchdog News, we continue to analyze the dynamics. We remain committed to delivering objective, comprehensive insights. Thank you for tuning in. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and join us as we uncover the layers of power and influence that's shaping our world today. That's it. Okay, so I'm signing off. So, thank you all again. Stop share. All right, signing off. So this is Jared Wesley Campbell. Thank you all again for following. I love you all so much. Please like and share out these videos. Get the information out. That's all I have. I'm out.